Hey, what's up guys? Jacob here, and today we're going to talk about why you always need to be prospecting. This is one of the biggest mistakes that salespeople make, and it causes them to have ups and downs in their sales, huge months and then dry spells, and it's really a big mistake. It's easily avoidable, and if you just do this, you'll probably be one of the best salespeople in your sales team or at your company. So this is coming from personal experience. I'm coming off of one of the best months that I've ever had in my sales job, and I want to share with you what happened and sort of how I'm fixing it, right? Because I made this mistake too, and it's not a good mistake to make, but there's a way around it. And so that mistake is saying, I don't have time to prospect because I have all these deals in the works, or I don't have time to prospect because of insert blank. You always need to have time to prospect. Prospecting is your number one priority as a salesperson, especially if you're an SDR. But if you're like me and you generate the meetings, you do the prospecting, and you take the discovery calls, and you close the deals, I'm like an SDR and an account executive baked into one thing. So I have to always fill my pipeline. And if you get caught up with sales and you caught up with closing deals, you're thinking, oh, I'm good right now. I have all these deals going. I don't need to prospect. Well, if you stop for a while, you're going to have a dry spell. And it's going to be delayed because if you prospect in April, right, you might have a full pipeline in May. But come June, if you didn't prospect in May, you're going to be empty. So you need to be prospecting every month to fill your calendar for the next month and the next month, and always have net new meetings. So your top funnel, middle funnel, and bottom funnel are always full. Otherwise, you're going to have gaps where, let's say you prospect in June and April and maybe in May, and then in June you get super full. So the whole summer you're just closing all the deals from April and May. But then come fall in like September, October, right, you're going to be empty because if you didn't do any prospecting in the summertime, you didn't fill your pipeline for the fall. And you're going to have to restart, you're going to have to regain all your momentum. You're going to close a bunch of deals in the summer, and then you're going to hit a slow lull, and you're going to hit a dry spell for a month or two while you're rebuilding your pipeline again, and then you're going to go up and down. It's a disaster. To avoid that, I'm going to share with you some ways to always make sure that you have a full pipeline. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, please drop a like on it so that it helps the algorithm show this to more salespeople, and we can all make more money, help more people, provide more value. And if you're not already subscribed, subscribe, because I do things like this all the time, these videos, and I make cool training documents like the one that is in the description down below. If you are trying to prospect and if you are trying to book yourself more meetings, you need this document. This is something that's going to teach you how to prospect the most efficient manner possible. And it's so step-by-step, it's broken down in these little bite-sized videos that you can even give it to a virtual assistant or a VA and have them do it for you, and they'll get you perfect leads every time, on target, the right person, validated emails, and it even shows you how to find emails that you normally couldn't find with the tool, and it shows you how to validate emails you normally could not validate. And lastly, if you're still having trouble with prospecting, you're still having trouble booking yourself meetings with cold email, you can hire me for a cold email coaching call, and I will get on the phone with you. It's $100. I'll get on the phone with you twice. The first time, we will go through what you're already doing, and I'll look at the situation and give you some feedback. Then you'll implement my feedback, and then a month later, we'll hop on a second call to go through and see what happened. One of my first coaching students closed like a grand or two after the first week, per month, after the first week of our call. So for him, for his personal business, and in his country, the average salary for a college person is like, a college educated person is like $400 a month. So that was huge for him. I'd love to help you do the same thing. All right, let's jump into it. I've already explained the problem. This happened to me. I had my biggest month ever in March. I closed 4 deals, almost 5, but the 5th one is going to close in April. And it was like 300 or 400 grand in revenue for the business over the course of the year. It was almost $30,000 a month in recurring revenue every month. So it was a solid month. It was my best month. I brought on 4 new deals, and because of that, I stopped that reason, and also because I booked myself so many meetings about a month ago. Last month in 1 week, I had 20 net new meetings in just 1 week, not to mention follow-up calls, proposal calls, internal meetings. So I was not sleeping. I was like not eating. I was just on sales calls all day, and I thought if I just pound myself like full of meetings or pound the phones, I'll close a bunch, right? But actually, I was so sleep deprived, and I wasn't able to give each prospect the attention that they deserved. I ended up not being able to really focus, and I think it impacted my close rate, because now I take less meetings, but I have higher quality conversations, and I feel like my close rate's getting better. It's a balance of having plenty of calls that are not dependent on one, but not having so many calls that you can't focus your attention on one prospect properly, right? And so for those 2 reasons, I decided to let my pipeline empty out. One, I wanted to focus on closing the deals that I already had in the works and onboarding those clients, because onboarding all 4 at one time for me was a lot. Some of them were taking new services that we haven't done before, so I had to really work with the team internally to make sure that they were all up and running to make sure that the expectations that I set during the sales process were met during the fulfillment, right? And so I said, okay, you know what? I don't have time for prospecting. I'm going to do this later. That's never say that. You always have time for prospecting. You should always be, you know the saying, always be closing? Really, it's always be prospecting, because what I've noticed is because I took about 2 weeks or 3 weeks off of prospecting, for those 2 or 3 weeks, I felt fine. I didn't feel the effects because I already had a full pipeline, right? And so if you're prospecting in May, by the time June rolls around, you already are full because in May you booked yourself solid for June, or all the conversations you started in May are going to be closing in June. But then in July, if you didn't do any prospecting in June, you're going to be empty. So you might have let's say you did prospect in April and May and June, then in June, July, and August, you're going to have great months. But then come the fall, if you didn't do any prospecting in the summer, you're going to have a dry spell because you didn't keep filling yourself with meetings. And that's a big problem. That is what causes salespeople to have peaks and valleys in a bunch of deals, and then they stop prospecting. So then the next month they have no deals, and then they have to restart, and they go up and down. If you want to have consistent sales and consistent growth, you need to be always prospecting. So some ways you can do that are scheduling meetings in advance. So even if your coming week is already fully booked, you can still prospect and you can book yourself solid for the next week, right? So you always can see a week or two out that you have meetings on the calendar, net new meetings, right? And just keep doing that. Another tip that I have is scheduling your time. So if you're an SDR or a salesperson like me, that I'm not an SDR actually, I do everything. I prospect, I book the discovery calls, I qualify, I close the deals, I onboard. I take it the full length of the sale, which is awesome for me. I like the experience. But anyway, you need to always schedule time for every task. So you need to, this is a whole another video maybe about task management, or time management, but blocking your time is super important. So I would say prospect in the mornings and then maybe in the afternoons when people are most likely to pick up the phone and check their email. But I always block time in the morning and whenever I feel is best for me to prospect. And I have certain numbers I need to hit. So this is another tip. So number one is, what did I even say? I don't know. I think the first one was schedule your time, right? Oh no, the first one was book meetings out in advance. The second tip is block your time. So schedule time and stick to it. And then the way that you know how much time you need to schedule is figure out what your lead measures are. So this is a big thing in sales that I think will help you out a lot too. There are things called lead measures and lag measures. So lead measures are things that you can do right now that will have an impact in the future. And the lag measures are things that are going to be a result of the lead measure. So closing a sale is actually a lag measure because you can't just go out and close a sale. Before you close a sale, you have to send a proposal. Before you close a sale, you have to negotiate on the contract. Before that, you send a proposal. Before that, you book a discovery meeting. Before that, you send a cold email or make a cold call. So the sale is actually a result of how many contracts you send out, which is a result of how many proposals you send out, et cetera, et cetera. The real thing that you have direct control over is how many emails you send and how many calls you make. So if you send 100 emails, you might book let's say if you're really good, you'll book 10 meetings. That's pretty high, but if you're good, you can do it. Let's say out of 100 emails, you book 10 discovery calls. Let's say half of those are disqualified. They're not a good fit. Of those 5 people that are a good fit, you send out 5 proposals, right? Of those 5 proposals, 3 of them like them and want to go into contract negotiations. And of those 3, you close 1 or 2. So for every 100 emails you send, you're closing 1 or 2 new customers, right? So it's not about, okay, how many deals do I want to close this month? It's okay, how many deals do I want to close? But then how many emails do I need to send, or how many calls do I need to make? And then just make sure that you make those calls and send those emails, because you know every email that you send is going to be worth X amount of dollars once you close the deal. For example, I did the math, and for me, every email that I send for my company is worth about $30 in revenue, which is pretty good, and it's actually increasing as I increase my deal size and my close rate. But that means if I send 1,000 emails per month, which is only 50 per day, I'm generating $30,000 in revenue for the business, which means I think that's actually 1,000 emails a month. Yeah, $30,000 in revenue for the business. So you can definitely do this math. You can definitely calculate it, and you can definitely hold yourself accountable to hit your sales targets. Always schedule time to send emails, always be prospecting, and always have a full pipeline. Otherwise, you're going to run into a situation where your pipeline empties out and you're dry for a month or two. And for example, for me, I noticed that my middle and bottom funnel right now are looking pretty good, but my top funnel is empty. it's almost empty. I have like 5 net new calls total, maybe like 6, and that's a little bit scary because you know, if you don't book yourself, like I need to book myself 10 new meetings every week. I've realized to hit my numbers. That's a good number for me. So I have less than that, and it's a result of taking time off from prospecting. Big mistake. I'm not doing that ever again. You shouldn't either. And I'm gonna fix it. I'm not worried about it because I'm gonna send a lot of emails this week. I'm gonna make a lot of calls this week. I'm gonna book myself 10 meetings. If you're good at your job, booking yourself 10 meetings a week is not hard. It's not hard in terms of like, if you actually put in the work, you can book yourself 10 meetings. Putting in the work and overcoming rejection is hard because to get 10 meetings, you're probably gonna get 900, or let's see. If you have a 5% meeting book rate, that means you have to send 200 emails. So you might get 195 no's to book 10 meetings, but that's okay. If you're cool with getting told no 195 times to book yourself 10 meetings and close a deal, then you're cut out for this job. So that's the advice I have for you guys, and that's how I'm recovering from this mistake. I had my best month in March. I'm gonna have another good month in April, and I'm not going to let this impact my May, because I know that I want to also have a record month in May, and to do that, I need to take action right now to build my pipeline up for the future. But if you do that, you're always going to be closing. But the real methodology is don't always be closing, it's always be prospecting. That's how you're always closing. Hope you liked this video. If you did, please drop a like and give it a thumbs up. That's the same thing. I don't know why I said it twice, but either way, it helps the algorithm a lot. It helps me a lot. It helps other salespeople see this video. So if you got value from it, I would really appreciate the like. If you have any questions or anything like that, leave them down below. Let me know if you've ever had this happen to you before, where you made the mistake of pausing your prospecting to take calls and book meetings and close deals, and then you experienced a slow month. Let me know down below. And if you want that free training, that lead generation training document, grab it in the link down below in the description. I'll send it to your email. It's free, it's awesome, and it will help you avoid this mistake, and it will help you book yourself absolutely solid. That's all from me, guys. Take it easy. Bye.